Good morning, Southwest Florida, and welcome to the American Tradesman Show with my guest, Gerald Privette from B&K Water Extraction and Mold Services.
That's right.
That's right. And my main man, BP, Brian Privette from Privette Plumbing. Don't fret.
Call Privette.
Good morning, Brian. Are you awake?
Oh, yeah.
I know it's a little early for you.
Oh, yeah.
Gerald said he had a catfish for you.
Mm-hmm.
Catfish.
Is that not true, or is that fishtail?
And the Dollar General.
And the Dollar General. And my main partner, Juan Silva. Good morning, Juan.
Good morning.
Welcome to American Tradesman Show. And today we're going to kind of finish up with the coronavirus and going to start up next week with remodels. Brian, what do you think of that idea?
I think it's great.
I think we're going to process it right straight through to showing you what you have to do. And if you have any problems with drawings, which is the most important part of, I guess, most remodels, right, fellas?
Yeah, definitely.
Is engineering is what we have to go through. So next week, stay tuned for us to listen to a process of remodels and renovations, something that if you have a question out there for the audience, it's best probably to email me at ac@theamericantrades.com. That's ac@theamericantrades.com. You can email me any questions that you would have for the radio show next week. Like I said, we're going to, Gerald, talk about remodels, which is kind of some of the things that we've been starting to head up on right now. I mean, remodels, Juan is going crazy right now.
Yeah, I'm going crazy right now with remodels.
Mr. Bill Varian has got quite a few of them, and I'm sure you guys do too. But next week will be an important subject to talk about, not only the process and the procedures of what you have to do for, the remodels, but also, I mean, how easy it could be for us to permit them online, right, Brian? Yep. A lot of things nowadays we've learned, Juan, is do everything at home.
Do everything at home, do it remotely, do it online, do it emails.
I said to the inspector today when they came out, the first thing I said, I was like, I think that this is going to teach and maybe put a lot of people out of business because it's going to probably, make people understand that they're much more needed now at home to doing their business than they are to being at work, right?
Yeah, well, you start to think of how you can start doing things remotely and having remote access to the things that you need.
It's to me, I think in my own mind, I thought it was a little bit difficult because applying online with permits, Brian, you've been doing that for years now with the water heaters, but it is another process to build a home through the permitting process, but we're learning now that it may be a lot easier for us to permit through the online business personally.
Yeah, this definitely is going to push everything towards that route.
And that's okay with me because I got to tell you, waiting in those lines in the county buildings, fellas, is crazy. Mm-hmm. And I know that they're not allowing anybody in the county buildings right now, so I can't imagine what it's going to be like, for the next 6 months.
That's kind of like that everywhere. Even like for our jobs, we have to kind of pre-order.
Yeah.
Get everything
pick up your
called
order
in.
outside.
Yep, pick it up outside.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely. They won't even let you get inside the building sometimes.
That may be the new way. Not to say it, but I see all the stores. Home Depot using it as a carry out. You stand up and pull out your PO and you drive up and away you go.
I kind of like it that way, actually, because, usually when you go to Splash, you get that one guy who's up there and every time they think he's done, he remembers he needs one more fitting.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so you're there for like 45 minutes. So, yeah,
because he went to pick up the other fittings
right.
for the other guy. Yeah, I got to say, it's taught, America how to improvise from a restaurant standpoint for takeouts, and in the construction industry, it's improvised to have a takeout also for your material, right?
Yep.
But, with the corona coming down to, in my opinion, phases, I'm hoping to God, fellas, that this is all going to end here. I heard they closed the beaches again. Now they open the beaches from 7 to 11. I'm not sure I understand any of the concept of how you open it, how you close it. The sun is what I heard kills viruses, right? Heat. I would think you'd want to be down at the beach most of the time to try to kill it.
I think just the most important part is if you're sick, stay home.
Yeah.
If you're coughing your lungs out, stay home, and just let everybody else enjoy it. Enjoy the sunshine and being able to get out.
The funny thing you said is that, stay home, but, during the whole process of this corona, people have stayed home. But on the other side, if you think about most of the people that stay home for colds during our process of working, they always call in for something, right, Brian? There's always an excuse not to come in for that day. So I will say that, Juan just kind of said it. I mean, if you're sick, stay home. I mean, call in. Make that decision on your own. In the same breath, I would surely hope God, that soon, right, Gerald, this is going to end and we're going to get back to a full.
Yeah, we're on the downslope right now, so.
That's exactly what I'm feeling. So I'm hoping that maybe the next month or so, things will be back to normal and we don't have to talk about the coronavirus, right?
I'm starting to get a facial tan from my mask. You know what I mean?
I did see a little bit of line that went under. Oh, that's your beard. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I thought it was your haircut.
No,
There's black on the top, white on the bottom. I thought maybe you just.
No, I'm waiting until it passes and I'm going to shave.
That what the audience knows. It's a little bit of a white peppery beard.
That's real pepper. There's no salt and pepper. This is all salt.
He does have a lot of pepper on the top, just so you know. Bottom half is salt. Well, Gerald, today we wanted to talk about cast iron, right? Gerald, is that what it was, or black iron?
Yep.
And so we wanted to talk about some of the things that you guys have been pressing, I guess, dealing with for the last, few months, is that spray foam or whatever they're spraying inside of that. So I'll let you take the handle on that, Gerald, and tell us what you think.
Yeah, so, the past couple of weeks we've been talking about cast iron, the degradation of cast iron, and basically changing it out to PVC. We actually had one that we spoke about a couple of weeks ago about the home and giving them, the idea of what they needed. They had somebody else that suggested to them about lining the cast iron. And that's something that you really need to get on the internet and do your homework about. So the process of lining cast iron is basically taking what they call a sock, but it is a sort of like a membrane of sorts, and you have to add epoxy to it. And so what happens is it starts inside out. They add the epoxy to it, and they use a pressurized machine to push it through the cast iron up underneath the home. And then it turns it right side out. So once that epoxy hardens, you have a lining on your cast iron. And the way that they get it to take its form is either they use a air bladder or a water bladder that basically pushes the lining against the pipe. And so once it hardens, then you have a liner on the inside of cast iron. And a lot of places are pushing this because it's cheaper than replacement of PVC and it's quicker. But there's so many downsides to that. And like I said, people really need to do their due diligence and get on the internet and check out the pros and cons of this. And those are, a lot of what I'm going to speak about today. So, you don't know what the condition of your cast iron is. If you bring the pipelining company in, supposedly they're going to camera the line to know, what the condition is. But the first step in it is they have to run some sort of snake through there. And basically what that snake is going to do is, depending on the head that they put on there, some of them use a C-shaped cutter head, and some of them use what is called a chain snap head. And basically what it does is it has chains that extend out when it rotates, and it breaks down the inner diameter of the cast iron. As you all know, over time, you lose inner diameter on your cast iron because the cast iron swells. It's not a solid metal, it's a cast metal. So you're going to have impurities in there. You're also going to have air trapped in there when they cast it. So what happens is, over time, those layers start to separate. And that's what causes you to lose your inner diameter. Plus you end up with flakes. And that's the key thing, is flakes and irregularities on the inside shape of that cast iron. And so when they're going to run their machine through there, they're going to run it through there, and what they're doing is breaking the interior of that cast iron. Now, if you have 50-year-old cast iron, the biggest problem with that is going to be, how much are they going to break? Are they just going to break it out to smooth it? Or is that cast iron in such bad shape, they're going to bust out a piece and it's going to go all the way through? And that's something you really don't know.
When you're saying that, not to say it from a commercial standpoint, I remember probably there's several companies in the town that are doing this all over the state. And I always concerned myself when somebody said they were going to spray foam inside of the diameter of the cast. I mean, iron. Does that make sense to me? Is that it makes the pipe smaller, right?
Yeah, I would think so too.
It does, because if you have a 3-inch cast iron line, you figure after 50 years, you've probably lost it and you're down to maybe 2¼ inches. You're going to lose quite a bit. Now, they're going to try to gain some of that back with the snake, but the chances of them gaining back enough is not going to, it's not going to be what you need. And you're going to think about this liner. This liner is going to be anywhere from 3/16 to 3/8 of an inch thick. So you multiply that times 2, and that's how much you've lost there.
So you're telling me that once they've sprayed the liner in there, they take the tape back inside to what, to route it, or?
No. They do that prior to.
Oh, so they
Putting
could
the-
be putting holes in the cast iron. I mean,
what
That
I
is
was
absolutely.
thinking.
That
if
is
the snake's
absolutely
going
correct.
Through there, it's going to be grinding some of that stuff open.
You're gonna make it worse.
And you don't know, and they're not going to tell you. That's for definite. But once you get that main line lined, then you have laterals that come off of that. So
Right.
here you have a solid liner that goes through there. So then what they have to do is they have to run the camera through there, and it's kind of hard
So
and
when
kind
they
of
take
like
a left, they got to say what. I mean,
well, they run a camera through there, and there's a cutter head on there, and
Yeah.
it's a grinder head, and so basically they have a general idea of where it is by the way that the liner
camera's showing.
has bulged out, and they run this grinder, and they take and cut a hole in this liner they just installed to give you access to your lateral. Now, here's the key to that. The water is coming from the lateral into the main, and you just cut a hole in the liner to give access. So you're going to have 50% of the water that's going to enter into that main, and you're going to have the rest that's going to go in between that liner
Yeah.
and the existing cast iron, because there's no way to seal that once they do that.
that to me, I wondered. I mean, it sounded like a good idea. Back in the day, a lot of the condos, the high rises, were just putting the stuff in there. It looked like they were just. This is a final. Job.
Well, in the stacks, that's what a lot of them do, because what's considered the stack pipe or the cast iron that's in the wall that goes from unit to unit in a lot of these high rises, they'll do that to keep from having to enter into every unit, cut the wall, and change out that section of cast iron with PVC. So what they do is they run a liner down. The biggest issue is A, just like we talked about, those laterals that come off of that, but B, when you get to the bottom and you make that turn, these liners are terrible about not being able to form correctly in fittings. And as you all know, a fitting, especially if it's cast, you're going to lose diameter of that fitting, period, because of the way it's cast. If it's a 3-inch line, you've got the full 3 inches. If you've got a fitting, you're going to lose a little bit on that fitting. But to add that liner in there that is not going to be able to make that turn, because it's not precision. So it's going to be irregular in there, and depending on the irregularity as to what kind of problems you may have. And like I said, if the epoxy is not set right, so if they have too little epoxy, you're going to have a liner that's too thin. It's going to break down in a matter of no time. It'll start falling apart, falling in on itself. You'll end up with chunks of this liner inside of the pipe that is causing the blockage itself.
That was. My second question was, what is the material of the liner made out of? It's not icing.
It's a fabric, kind of like a sock fabric material. It's a combination of something similar to like a fiberglass, and then they're going to add the epoxy to it.
It's just like a liquid.
Well, no, the sock is like a fiberglass sock.
So you
Similar.
just kind of stretch it throughout the pipe.
Correct, but
It's
they
not like icing or something.
no,
where it
no, but they
expands.
coat it with an epoxy before they run it through there, and the epoxy takes so long to dry. Well, no, it causes it to harden.
Oh.
Just like when you add the 2 parts for fiberglass,
Right.
and it causes, this is the same,
Fiber and resin, right?
correct. So this is the same exact scenario.
It's like that cloth, like when you're
Yeah,
layering.
right. So that cloth is really kind of, it sticks to the wall, right, of the pipe.
No, it doesn't stick to the wall. You're using this bladder that they put in there after that they either fill with air or water to give it the shape, and then it hardens into place.
So it takes over the black iron altogether.
Well, it just conforms to the interior of it, so you have a passage.
I cannot.
So you have
see
a
how that would be
shell
that
inside the
small.
cast
That's,
iron.
that's exactly right.
That drain line has to be, small by the time you're done.
That is the biggest problem. And like I said, if it's too little epoxy, you end up with too thin a wall. And
These things are on a high rise. I mean, 10, 15 floors, and you're coming down. How does that work?
you're exactly right. It doesn't.
Doesn't work.
Well, just listening to it, I mean, before I was really kind of a fan of it because I always thought it was like a foam that went in there and it sealed the holes. But then I always used to wonder how. I mean, the OD, I mean, is one thing, but the inside diameter's got to be shrunk.
That's correct. And like I said,
Isn't
you know,
that kind of out of code now?
that's that's another point.
I mean, you're doing something now that ain't even really code.
That was another
I mean,
point.
They gave
You're
it that
going to
size
lose.
probably back 20.
You're going to
30
lose
years
the
ago.
inner diameter, and you're going to lose so much of it that a lot of times it is not going to be up to code to the amount of pipe.
Which it was expected probably 30 years ago.
That is exactly right.
Further on. Yeah.
And the more, you know, like I said, it has to be a balancing act on how much epoxy. Too much epoxy and the liner becomes too thick, and then you're constricting everything.
Well, I mean, who's going to say they put too much in there?
That's exactly right. And they're not going to tell you that. So a
Until
lot
you
of
back
times
up.
you need to have a separate contractor come in with a camera and go through and inspect each and every square inch of this line that they've done, because the warranties on them are next to nothing. I mean, it's very hard to have them warranty anything, and their biggest thing, and that you're going to see in every clause in there, is hot water temperatures. A perfect liner in a perfect scenario cannot withstand water more than 140 degrees. So if you just boiled a pot full of pasta and throwed it in the sink,
How hot?
140 degrees is.
Well, what good is that? I mean, hot water comes out of a water heater, probably even hotter sometimes.
Well, I mean,
I mean,
usually
115, right? I mean,
125 is the max you really want in your home. But like I said,
But I mean, a
that's
period of time would break that
Sometimes
down.
if the thermostat fails on your heater,
Oh, yeah,
it
you don't
goes
even
into
know.
the spike mode.
Right.
well, the key word for that was
200.
Oh, that's my wife's shower right there, too.
yeah. The key word for that was a perfect liner. There's never going to be scenario for a perfect liner. So you're looking at now anywhere between 110 to 120, because they're not going to be able to do the liner perfectly. It doesn't matter who, what, when, or where. You know, that's just when you see those videos that you see online, you're most of the time you're looking at those in a factory setting to where they're showing you brand new pipe in a lab somewhere,
Yeah.
and they're not
That's like LED lights, how long they stay on for.
Who knows? Stay up for it.
Yeah, I got to say, I mean, when they say 100,000 hours or 10 years, I mean, I wonder who's going to be up there. But you just said it. I mean, that's kind of shocking to me because, you know, I thought that was really kind of the cat's meow. I mean, not to say it, but if you had cast aluminum and you just kind of had a problem, you just send the guy in there to seal it, but it wouldn't.
You know where they started using a lot was back, it's been a long time, but on the high rises,
Right.
they would use them
They
for
didn't want to dig the whole slab up.
Well, no, they were started using it for the rainwater leaders, the cast iron to carry the water from the roof.
Yes.
They started rusting out. And the reason they were able to do those relatively easy, it was usually a straight shot, and there weren't a bunch of branches and
That makes sense.
yeah. Now it's completely different, and
Yeah, now they just, I mean, I got to tell you, I was in condos that, remember they cut the slabs open and they couldn't figure it, so they hit the main services on the electrical, and once they did that, they ended up cutting into, I mean, not to say it, post-tension, they were really in a mess. And then to say that they were just going to shoot, I really thought it was foam, but now that it makes sense, I mean, it's almost like, I mean, Bondo in a car, right?
Yeah,
I
like
kind
I
of
said,
like imagine like a sock inverted and where it just pushes and
Well, Bondo in cars, I mean, it's got a fishnet mesh, and then you put the resin on it, right?
yeah.
I mean, how do you even smooth that stuff out?
That's what I was wondering. Is how they come out smooth.
I mean, it doesn't.
it's the basically the bladder itself. Once it you fill it
So
with
you're
the resin.
filling a bladder through there.
Well, the bladder,
keep
when
it
it swells, it's got a smooth surface, and so that's what it's conforming to on the interior. But, I mean, it's not going to be completely smooth. And
So that means toilet paper is getting hooked. I mean, I'm thinking of resin from fiberglass. I mean, look how much resin pops up out of fiberglass.
the biggest thing is when they go to clear the line to get more inner diameter so they can run this thing, and still have something left for the water and everything to pass through. If they do not pull out those chunks of cast iron flakes and something's left in there, when that sock rolls over the top of it and starts to harden, it's taking the shape of whatever was left in the bottom of that pipe. And that's a real danger right there, because if you have a large chunk of cast iron that's sitting down there, or one that's, you know, cocked up on the side and it takes the shape of it, I mean, it's going to cause, you know, a bulge in that liner. And what happens then is when paper and solids come through there, they're going to hang up on that and they're going to cause a traffic jam, which is going to back up. And here's the worst part about it all. If you call the plumber out there because your house is backed up and he says, you know, this, that, and you tell him, hey, I had a liner put in, the plumber's going to excuse himself out of that situation right there, because I cannot put my hydrojetter in there because that's 3,000 psi of water, which is going to cut and shred that sock all to pieces. B, I can't put a snake in there because the snake head, any of them, I mean, even the bulb head has a little piece that protrudes off the front that grabs paper, and it's going to scratch and cut that liner all to pieces. I can't put a chemical treatment in there because it's going to eat that liner all up. So, I mean, those are my three options, and I'm not going to want to take the liability because of the cost of it. I'm not going to want to say, you know, hey, I'll do this for you, we'll clear it up, and then 2 months later the homeowner comes back, well, I have a hole in the liner and you did clear my line, I think you owe me a new liner now. And the bad part of
that doesn't sound right. I mean, it just, all of it sounds crazy. I mean, think about it. If you're doing that to a home and you can't jet it, then what?
well,
How do you fix that problem?
here's the worst part of
don't.
it all. If it happens and there is a problem with the liner when it is installed, there is no turning back. Once that liner hardens, there is no other solution then except for them to come in and replace that. You can't pull that liner out. You can't repair that liner. Now you have an issue that,
Repair it, you make it even smaller again.
well, I mean, now you have an issue, and so if they do install that liner and it doesn't take correctly or something happens, I mean, chances are you're going to have something bad. And if they do come out, they're going to come out with that grinder that they cut the little branches off of, and then the pipes, and they're going to come out and cut that off, which means they're going to ruin that liner. And then, like I said, once that liner's ruined, I mean, you're going to have conditional issues from there on out. And I mean, so that's something you really have to take into consideration, because
Does that mean you have to find a garbage disposal?
no.
I mean, what kind of size of
Well, like I said, if the pipe gets too small, it's not usable.
not usable?
Yeah, that I mean, I could see that happening, because, not to say it, but, I never even took into, consideration when you said earlier, that this is almost like a fiber mesh that goes in and then the resin and then it hardens. And when you said that, all in my mind, I kept thinking, well, this pipe was designed, right, Brian, 40 years ago. Probably now it'd be double the size, of what it probably really needed to be. So can you imagine having a 2-inch, I'm just saying the lateral or something that's going to be going out to the sewer at 2-inch size. By the time it gets out there, you got maybe 6-7 condos above you coming down through that same pipe. It's going to cause a mess.
Yeah, and like I said, if it's up underneath the house and you have an island that's in the middle of a kitchen, that 2-inch lateral for that cast iron is going to go over to that main, which is probably going to be 40 foot of 2-inch cast iron. There's nothing you can do about lining that. There is no way that they're going to be able to line that and give you enough passage for any kind of water, because especially with your kitchen sink, anything you wash off that plate is going to build up, and that thing would constantly back up if you had that issue. And so it's hard for them to tie a lateral into the main as well, because of the same scenario with that sock that has to go through there. So, you're really going to run into so many conditional issues there. And the greatest of them all is Florida soil.
Oh yeah.
So while they may camera the line, they may show you this, they may show you that, the one thing they cannot show you is the exterior of that cast iron pipe. And if you went through all the trouble to spend several thousands of dollars lining the interior of cast iron, only to find out that the pH and acidity of the Florida soil ate through the outside, and now you have, pipe that is just crumbling away around your cast iron lining, it renders it useless because it cannot sustain itself as a regular pipe. Plus, if that Florida soil is going to eat through that cast iron, it's going to eat through that liner a lot quicker. Very quick.
So what does a homeowner do? So they're in a situation. Let's just say they have a 1,800 square foot home, and has the cast iron in it. throughout, vanities, sinks, restrooms, everything that's underneath. Like, what are the steps? What is the process on changing that out to PVC, or whatever conduit that you guys recommend to use?
PVC is going to be the recommended pipe, Schedule 40, not thin wall. You do have contractors that still use thin wall pipe for drainage, and it's unreal. But I mean, essentially, you're going to have to take, and a lot of the times your bathrooms are on the edges of homes, and you're going to have to tunnel up underneath, take that bathroom cluster, and bring that piping out the side of the home and bring it around to, make sure you get enough pitch and you can bring it down to the sewer line that's going to be in the front. But I mean, that's going to be your best option is tunneling up underneath homes.
So basically, to kind of give a picture, you have the outside of your house, the exterior wall, right? And like you said, most restrooms are close towards the exterior walls. You dig underneath, you take out the old pipe, you pop in the new PVC underneath the toilet, sinks or whatever, and then you come outside and then you just trench around.
That is correct.
So it doesn't seem like it's that daunting of a project that some people may think, for the normal homeowner,
It's not, and it's not as bad. It is time consuming, and that's a big thing. Everybody now wants instant gratification for things, and that's the hard part. It takes
Brian, we have that problem when we're running down the sidewalk. Weren't we?
Oh, yeah.
We're trying to lose a couple 100 pounds and didn't
Yeah, but we're running to Dunkin' Donuts. You know what I'm saying? I mean, let's get real. I'm going to get the last eclair.
I want the ice. I want iced coffee. I want iced coffee. Well, I don't want to cut you off, Gerald, but in the sense of all of it, it's kind of enlightening. I want the audience to understand. I mean, what you're talking about, and a lot of times, now running. This as really kind of a way to fix your plumbing. All right. When you had said they use it for drain lines on condos, that kind of made sense. For overrun for water, roof water, right?
Drain water leaders, yeah.
That makes sense. I could see that happening because it's really a one straight shot. And then I started to think to myself, what if that thing leaks on the way down? Because generally it's in some corner of where the water heater's at, and they're running that right down the corner of a condo. But the reality is, when you say years ago, I would say even less than 10 years ago, they were repairing condos, sewer lines that way.
Yeah.
And not saying it, but it used to be you had to cut, when Juan was talking about the procedure, well, in some cases you're going to have to cut a hole big enough, to get underneath the toilets and get out the wall and obviously get out to run new drain, right? So, if the audience is listening, this was a foolproof. It's companies are out there still, performing, obviously, some kind of repairs, right? The same way. And I'm only guessing right now, but if you're telling me now that that's not really a good thing, and then I start to think about the size of the pipe, and now you can't even run a jet line through it. What good is this going to be for?
It's almost like you're doing a Band-Aid. You're doing good money on top of bad.
That's exactly what it is.
I know that.
It's a very expensive Band-Aid. And like I said, we deal with a bunch of HOAs through the plumbing side, and a lot of them have gone that route. And usually within the first year to 2 years, we're getting calls for things, and it ends up being, we had a liner done on the cast iron that's in the wall, and then right then I have to back myself out, and you're going to need to call that company. And sometimes it's to where, the company is going to come out and fix it. You really have to wonder, how are they going to fix it? Because A, they can't cut into the cast iron, and B, you can't really do much with the liner other than cut the liner.
Well, what happens too is they get a lot of these companies that come down from the other coast or upper Florida. So it's not like they're a 24-hour service company. It's not that they're local, they'll come out a week later if you can even get them out, and you're not dealing with somebody that's in your area.
That's it. And you have to think about it like this. That liner, in a perfect scenario, you may have 40 years in a perfect scenario. PVC does not
40 years or 4?
40. In a perfect scenario, you may have 40 years on a liner for a cast iron in a perfect scenario. As we all know, we do not live in a perfect world. So the PVC does not start biodegrading until 400 years. Now, granted, your PVC is not going to last that long. There are going to be exterior factors that are going to cause issues with that pipe, whether it be shifting in the soil, anything like that is going to cause issues with the PVC. But you're going to get a far greater lifespan out of PVC than you will that liner. And the liner is going to outlast the cast iron, and that's going to be your biggest problem then, because you have no hubs, you have no connectors. So once that cast iron rots away, you basically have a pipe that's just going to start sagging, getting waves in it, or it's going to be the liner. It's not even going to be considered a pipe. And then once it gets exposed to the elements up underneath your slab, I mean, it's going to eat it up in a matter of no time.
Well, I say it's going to collapse, because if the iron pipe around it on the exterior is degrading and breaking off, I mean, that means it'll just collapse within itself over time.
Or it just
Well,
probably flake around
it's
it.
hardened, so it's going to start crumbling. It's going to
Yeah.
be basically like a pork rind when you squash it over time.
Brian, don't get Brian hungry. I mean,
First bag of pork rinds
pizza.
on the ride over.
Hey,
Yeah, he
ate some
just
this
ate a
morning.
bag of pork rinds on the way over. But that's going to
Be
be
pork rind cast iron.
I mean, now he's thinking about that. I mean, that's not good. Well, listen, if the audience is listening out there, I mean, I would suggest highly, obviously, to give Brian and Gerald, his brother, a call at Privette Plumbing, right, Gerald? What's the phone number?
239-596-5533.
One of the things he had made a mention throughout the conversation was to get a second opinion on somebody that has got a camera system, correct in saying?
That is correct. And then more than anything, everybody has the internet on their phones, on their tablets, their laptops, their iPads. Google it. I mean, you don't have to take my word for it. You don't have to take somebody else's word for it. Do your own homework. Google it. And Google the pros and cons of lining cast iron. And you'll be amazed at what you find for literature. Because the companies that perform these, they're going to show you these scenarios, and it's going to look great, and it's going to look perfect. The ones that are showing you the real world stuff and stuff they've had to cut out, pull out, and remove, I mean, that's where you're going to really start to see, and it's going to give you so much informative suggestions on what can go wrong and scenarios of what has happened. So please, everybody, just get on the internet. You don't have to listen to what I say. Get on the internet and look for yourself.
It's important to understand that we, as subcontractors in this, Southwest Florida, we give them our professional opinion. It's not something that somebody else may have a different opinion. I understand that, but the reality of it is that we're giving you our professional opinion. I mean, it makes sense. It makes sense to me from an audience standpoint. Sometimes, Juan had said it, putting a Band-Aid on it, but you made a bigger statement by saying it's a big Band-Aid and probably a big expensive Band-Aid.
It's a very expensive Band-Aid.
Which may not last longer than a couple years.
And you don't know. And like I said, they can tell you all they want about this, that, or anything else about the warranty. Ask them straight up. If I call you 5 years from now, are you going to come back? And see what their answer is going to be. Because, I mean, if you get somebody that won't come back in 5 years after spending that kind of money to guarantee that they've done a good job, what is the point in it?
Yeah, and we'll go back to the same process and make sure they pull a permit.
Well,
Because you might not even be able to get a
I
permit
was just
issued.
thinking the same thing. Is that the reality of it is that if you're not getting a 5-year warranty on it, I mean, you're going to be in the same position you were 5 years previous, right? I mean, there's no fix to that. So you're going to be at either a collapsed now, probably even worse off situation than cast iron, right? I mean, in the sense of all of it, a mess underneath that slab to try to replace the same pipe going out. Am I right in saying that?
Yeah.
I mean, so that I would think you're going to end up probably charging more money, probably 5 years from now, to redo a plumbing stack to redo the plumbing sewer underneath a house or underneath a condo, because you're not going to be able to run the same distance as what it was before.
No, you have to just basically abandon that main
And move over.
and bring things out the side. Well, you don't want to try to do.
Well, I mean, just saying you're not going to follow it, but the reality is that you're going to find some way, a shorter path. But still, I mean, I would think it sounds like you're playing, devil's advocate right now by saying you could do this now or do this in a few years again, right? I mean, that's sad to say, but that's like, I'm going to replace your transmission, but in 4 years, as of Juan, I mean, he's got one of those trucks that, he replaces a part once every 6 weeks. Right, Juan?
Don't buy a Ford.
Oh, my God. Don't buy a Ford in LaBelle.
Actually, this was
Well, actually, it wasn't LaBelle. Let me get
it
this
was
straight.
Sanford, Florida.
It was Sanford. Don't go to the internet and buy it off of there. But regardless of that, it is a true statement of listening to what you're saying is you're taking your chances of it not working, right, Brian? Yep. And that's something we're giving you a professional opinion. Don't fret.
Call Privette.
What's that phone number, fellas?
239-596-5533.
Again, we give the opportunity for people to understand. If you have any questions for me, any questions that you've already had this done, you can email Gerald and Brian. What's the email over there, Gerald?
PrivettePlumbing@yahoo.com.
So it's not very hard to understand. I mean, the reality is if you have, black cast iron in your house and you had this done, I guess you can't even run the camera machine, right? Or I guess you could, but
Yeah, you can run the camera. You
can't do anything.
if they have a blockage, you can't really do much for them. Not without assuming the liability of whatever may
Something
happen.
happening.
Yes, exactly right.
And that's a chance that, once you go to clean it, 18,000 PSI, you already said it, it's probably going to put a hole right through the side.
Yeah, 3,000 PSI is going
3,000.
to shred it all to pieces.
And if we do mess with it, there'll be a waiver that they'll have to sign.
So the audience out there, if you do have black cast iron and you're in that lawsuit with the famous guys out there, that seems like there's a lawsuit for everything nowadays. But if you're in that lawsuit and you're trying to find the cheaper way out, be careful on trying to find the cheaper way out, right, Joe?
Yeah.
Because that right there is probably something that a lawyer can win, but then he pays you the right amount and you go and do it cheaper, you can put yourself in a bigger position by doing this, with this spray foam, whatever it is. I don't even know what it's called.
It's called cast iron lining.
Cast iron
Just
lining.
like that? Mm-hmm. Wow.
Cast iron lining, ladies and gentlemen. If you have that out there, keep an eye out on it. Give the fellas a call, Brian and Gerald. They'll be more than happy to help you. Right around the halfway mark, we kind of have our little bit of a shout outs today. Juan had a shout out. I heard about it today because I was riding with him in, and only because he's getting his truck fixed, right, Juan?
Yep.
For the 450th
I
time.
couldn't tell how many
It's
times
got
now.
nothing to do with Ford. It's got to do with the driver, the user. Well,
I can ask Gerald his opinion.
no, Gerald stays out of that opinion. He's riding around on a Lincoln Continental, 1978. Okay?
Cool.
But Juan, what's your shout out today? I know it's somebody local in your town, and
Yeah, I want to give
somebody
Yeah, I want to give a shout out to Steve Young over there at Tire Choice Auto Service Centers. This actually stems back a while back where my daughter had a flat tire. And I just called him up and, I said, hey, I got my daughter right down the road. She's freaking out. She has a low tire. And he said, just have her swing in. I'll take care of it. So she swung in there. He gave me a call back and he said, hey, all right, she's all buttoned up, good to go. And I was like, all right, well, I'll give you the credit card. He said, you know what, Juan, don't worry about it. He goes, I got it. She's taken care of. So ever since then, Steve stayed in my mind. And so just this past Saturday when my truck broke down and I was on the side of the road, I said, you know what, let me give him a call. So I got the tow truck, called him up, and said, hey, I got to bring my truck in. It stopped working on me. I think it's the fuel pump. Steve said, yeah, go ahead and get it in here, and we'll take a look at it. I'll take care of you. And he did, got the parts ordered, and my truck's up and running. So if you guys look for need someone dependable and there in Lehigh, go over to Tire Choice Auto Service Centers. He helped me out.
Lehigh Acres, ladies and gentlemen. That's right up the street from us. It's always good to give a shout out to the subs and the smaller companies out there. It's our way to give them back. And then also, if you want to be on the radio, you can always give me an email at ac@theamericantrades.com. That's ac@theamericantrades.com. Email me or text me at 239-825-1261. Or you can even call our office at 239-719-1789. Any questions you have for the radio or any questions you have in construction, feel free to email me or call me. I'll be more than happy to help you. I've gotten emails in the last few weeks about generators, Juan. So
yeah,
we're just, again, we love the calls. We love to get the questions. And, Gerald and them, they're really kind of, in the same boat as everybody. We're all out there working every day, hard as we can, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And it's something that we've had to keep going during this, coronavirus, but we've not let up. So if you have some things that you have to get done, we come out prepared. with gloves, and in Brian's case, he has one glove that has one finger. I'm not sure why, but
Still wondering.
it's just something he has,
And I wear my booties.
and he wears his booties with his booty. And then Gerald and him, I mean, they come out with the mask, and I mean, everything is set up, right, Gerald? So anything out there that you guys have for Privette Plumbing or American Electrical, give them a call. But I want to go back to that shout outs, Gerald. I mean, did you have a shout out today for somebody?
Yeah, I want to give a shout out to Joe Sullivan at JF Sullivan Construction. And I also want to give a shout out to Dave and Steve Greenwald from Greenwald Builders. We work with them, some great guys.
Well, again, I say to you guys, I mean, a lot of times it's just a shout out to the smaller companies that, we work with or work for, right? I mean, sometimes Brian doesn't work because he's chasing down Gerald, I think, right? Yeah. I mean, or vice
Chasing
versa.
down some tub fillers for Anthony.
Yeah. That or, Cadbury's. I'm looking for Cadbury's. Anybody out there?
Peeps.
Peeps, Cadbury's. I mean, oh, that's right. We're over Easter.
Yeah.
Mother's Day, Brian. We did not even get to talk about Mother's Day. So today we could probably give the shout out for Mother's Day. We didn't give the shout out last week, but all you guys with mothers, I'm sure you guys got all mothers, right?
I'm pretty sure we all have mothers here.
I mean, Brian, you have a mother, I know, right? She's in charge of you when you go up to see her, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Gerald?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, is she in charge of you too?
No.
My mother made shepherd's pie this weekend. I want to give a shout out to my mother for giving me shepherd's pie for Mother's Day. She made me dinner. That was pretty nice of her. So I'm
Is that
gonna
German?
No, I think it's. I don't think
it is German.
I don't think it's German. It's actually an Irish food that it's when you put all the food together and you just kind of leave it for the next 6 months.
You do like did you used to do in the old days and just keep adding to it every day?
My mother, for the first 6 months of the year, would put shepherd's pie out. The next 6 months would be lasagna. This way, we had the opportunity to have lasagna and shepherd's pie. Go ahead, Juan.
Is that like when you go to those restaurants and they have like Taco Bell, Pizza Hut, and Popeyes all in one store?
Hey man, that's nice.
it's
When you can go
KFC.
from one counter to the next.
I think it's KFC.
Or KFC?
KFC, Taco Bell.
No, they got a
Pizza Hut.
KFC, a Taco Bell, and then they have the
Pizza
Taco
Hut.
Bell and the Pizza Hut together.
Yeah. You got.
That just sounds for a disaster.
Well, in my mother's case, it's not a disaster. I mean, I'm going to give my shout out to my mother and say, I love you, Ma. I thank you very much for my shepherd's pie. And I got a couple pieces of key lime pie out of there. So,
Hey, I love shepherd's pie. That stuff's good.
yeah, I got to say, growing up as a kid, I hated it, Especially when you heard your mother say, shepherd's pie tonight, get it out of the freezer. That was Sundays, right, Brian? I mean, I can only say, you never got that on an everyday affair. I mean, everyday affair was probably butter and sugar sandwiches. But this on Sundays, you used to get that shepherd's pie, or in my case, I used to get lasagna. Either way, they were both frozen over. For 6 months, I could pick out how many I wanted. It's a good thing. But again, I got to say, I give a shout out for my mother for this past Mother's Day. You guys, I mean, I'm sure you guys giving up. A shout out for Mama.
Oh yeah.
Mama, Juan, you giving your shout out to your mother?
Yeah, I give my mom a shout
You're
out.
gonna have to make sure your mother gets up at 6 o'clock in the morning though, and
Oh yeah, nah, I'm not gonna
she's
do
gonna
that.
tell her. You're gonna say, "Mom, listen to my."
He's going to leave you in charge of waking her up at 6
Yeah, I'll
in the
leave
morning.
that to you.
My mother has what's that thing? Alexa, she just says I record it. I'll record everything you got. If it's 6 o'clock in the morning, I ain't getting up, Anthony. That's the way I get it. Well, Juan, I mean, my shout outs today were for all the mothers out there, and I wanted to thank all the mothers for keeping it real for all of us men out there, because I know it's been tough for the corona. I know, Juan, you're getting beatings over there, but today we wanted to kind of, go over a few things from you on the electrical side, right, Juan?
Yeah.
So what did you want to talk about today?
Well, I wanted to kind of jump in a little early on, for next week's topic on the remodels, as for panel upgrades. And what ends up happening sometimes is that, it's an unforeseen thing when someone wants to do a kitchen remodel or add an addition, to where unfortunately that the panel needs to be upgraded at that moment. And the reason why I say that is that, one, it may be due to existing circuits, panels being overloaded, or just the panel being too old to find the correct breakers for it, and breakers to be code compliant. So that can be an issue.
You know, when you talk about the panel sizes and panel, I mean, it's funny we've been still seeing Federal Pacific and Zinsco panels out there, right?
Yes.
If you out there have a Federal Pacific, Zinsco, Bryant, I mean, is one of them.
Oh, you got Sylvania, Bryant, Westinghouse, Zinsco, Federal Pacific, Challenger. There's just so many just you can list.
Well, nowadays the insurance companies are now sending out letters from the insurance companies asking if you do have these style of breakers, right? And in the sense of all of it, they're talking about the style of breakers and if you're able to have what's called a trip mechanism built into it.
Yeah, trip mechanism being, if even like fuses, if you have a fuse panel, that needs to be changed out. When you're doing an addition or a remodel and you have aluminum wire, it's going to be a good idea to get that ripped out. I just got a call yesterday about taking a look at cloth wiring for a range. For some reason, the cloth wiring was stayed for the range, but everything else was changed out when she had a remodel done. So don't know why that was done, but, her insurance is claiming to get it removed, so we're going to do that for her.
And they're making it remove it for what reason?
Insurance purposes.
Insurance reasons.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something I also wanted to touch in on with the electrical portion of it. When you get an appliance upgrade, call your electrician before you go down there and pick everything out. I see so many times people come in and they want to upgrade, get nicer things because they're tired of these smaller appliances, especially in your condos when they want to go for the big boy refrigerators. Check with your electrician because you may find that your breakers and your panel may not be designed to carry the load of some of these new appliances. So, you guys can go in, do consultations with them and let them know, hey, we can do this, we can do that. And, that way that when you do end up with the final stages of your remodel or your appliance change out, you don't run into any bad hiccups.
Yeah, that's kind of one of the reasons why we over at American Electrical, we request to have appliance specs and cabinet drawings. That way we can look at over everything to make sure that we're code compliant, to see what's existing to what's going to go in, see what we can reuse if we can, and rewire what we have to, It's very, very important to have those specs.
Most of the time people do these kitchen remodels based on maybe a realtor and his contractor friend, right, Juan? Am I saying that right?
Yeah.
Or maybe the contractor's relative or friend or uncle, cousin, brother, love, husband, whatever.
Or late night watching DIY.
Well, yeah. I can only say, if you have a realtor that says they're going to fix it up for you while you're preparing yourself to go to MLS, I would suggest highly to make sure that you understand, Brian, that they have to pull permits for things that they're doing. If they're touching a kitchen and renovations of bathrooms and maintenance, obviously I understand that that's not part of it, but the reality is that if you're painting a house and you're spray washing and pressure washing, the liability that a homeowner takes from a painter standpoint is very much, his own risk. And the reason why I say that is because, in the past, homeowners have hired painters and then a guy falls off the ladder. Next thing you know, he breaks an arm, breaks a leg, and the owner of the home is responsible for the repairs of that guy now.
Yep.
And homeowners wouldn't have that risk if they hired a contractor to hire a general contractor. Hire a general contractor to subcontract. So you don't take the risk on your own. And not to say it, if you're a realtor, and I say realtor out there, and you're taking responsibilities of, yourself by subcontracting people to do painting and drywall and any repairs around the house, be prepared to understand that whoever they're hiring, if I was the homeowner and the realtor was doing that, make sure that they're doing the right thing with the licenses and insurance, because you are responsible for not only from the code enforcement standpoint on what you're doing, but also you're responsible for that person falling, getting hurt, or, worse yet, doing damages to your house. Houses, from an electrical standpoint, have burned down in kitchens many times because of the wrong current, the wrong breakers, arc fault breakers, GFI breakers, things that we have to deal with nowadays in the code, right?
Yeah, even it goes as far as simple as auto insurance.
That's right.
Pulling into your driveway.
That's right. A van comes in, backs out, hits your car, hits a tree, falls on your house. I'm just going dramatic.
Runs
right?
over the gnome.
Runs over. Brian, you see, Brian. Brian
There's
thought
no
that
coming
was-
back from that.
Brian thought it was his gnome for a minute. He was like, wait, that's not mine. But it is a true story that, I mean, I could say that I've had a car back into another car, and then the tree fell on the house. The house breaks the window, breaks the screen enclosure, and the next thing you know, they got a $40,000, I mean, repair bill, and the guy was just somebody down the street that was a friend of the friend. And the liability is not, I mean, something that most people carry enough of for somebody to do major damage, right? And that's the reason why we are on this show, is because we want people to understand, you know, it may seem a little bit tough to go around the circle to hiring the right contractors, the right people with the right insurances, but I'm giving the risk of not worst case, best case, but I'm giving the risk of what really truly could happen. I mean, in a sense of a backup, Brian. I mean, I say that, but I've seen toilets where they've just stayed on after the guy that was painting walked in, flushed the toilet, used the toilet. Homeowners are not there for months, walked away and flooded the whole, I mean, house. And if you look at that situation, the painter was not even close to even having the liability insurance for that type of work. So what had to happen is the guy is now going to have to get sued personally to a guy that probably doesn't even have enough money to, I mean, cover the insurance.
We see a lot where painters, sometimes landscapers, they turn the main water on to someone's house
Not
or
knowing.
condo to wash out their equipment.
Yep.
They don't know, maybe that some apart inside because people aren't home, whatever. Next thing you know, the place is flooded.
You know, you just hit it. I mean, it don't even have to be. A guy will go, hey, the water's off, you know, and then
Yeah.
the next thing you know, you're filling it up. But, you know, again, Juan, I mean, next week we're going to be touching base on some of this renovations. I wanted to finish up. I know you had a few things to say about the electrical side.
Oh yeah, so you know I covered the panels really quick, but you know you brought this up, and I'm gonna segue into something else that I saw just yesterday, and you know it was one of those Facebook sites, you know, the local, you know, marketplace where in your area you can in search of something, you know, whatnot, and someone had posted in search of someone to hang a TV. So, you know, there was a lot of, I was going through the comments, and there's a lot of people, you know, posting names and posting business cards of handyman, you know, and it got me thinking, well, I mean, if you're going to hire a handyman to hang your TV, very much like hanging a picture frame, okay, but he is not allowed to run electrical in your wall. So if you're planning to hang a TV on the wall and have all your cords just run down the wall on the outside and plug into an outlet, and that's your end goal, then that's fine. But as far as it goes to him cutting that drywall, running wires within the wall to tap out of an existing circuit, he cannot do that. And you do not want to put yourself in that situation. Very much like Best Buy. Best Buy gives us a call, you know, when they go out and they want to hang a TV on the wall and they run into, oh, there's no outlet up there because the client doesn't want an extension cord hanging down. They give us a call to go add an outlet. Just very much like that. So, you know, you just be very careful when you start searching for people to hang TVs on your walls or any kind of equipment. You might as well just give us a call, get an electrician a call, give an electrical contractor a call to hang that TV for you, and we can get it all done for you at the same time.
It's funny that you say that because I've been in situations where they went all the way through the other side thinking it was a lag bolt and went through a picture on the other side. And then, you know, nobody notices there's this screw coming out of the picture, except the TV doesn't look like it's holding up on the wall. And then the homeowner turns around and looks at the picture on the wall in their master bedroom and realizes that it came straight through to their picture. And you know, I don't know the liabilities under Best Buy's situations, but a lot of guys hang TVs not from Best Buy.
Yeah,
Handyman
that's it.
service, take the cord that you said, an extension cord, most of the time, tie it into the back of the outlet that's down low.
Yep.
Cut the end off of the extension cord, right?
Yep.
Hang it out the end of the hole, plug the TV in, plug the machines in that's all connected to it, and you got an extension cord that ran 2 wires, not a ground wire, but just 2 wires. Cut it off, and I mean, I see that more times than I see a regular job done with a regular, I mean, obviously outlet cut into the wall.
I mean, one of the, just like what you said right now, one of the craziest things I've seen where they cut the end off of the TV that plugs in, and they get a black extension cord. They splice into it and run that in the wall. So basically, they take the 3 foot cord that the TV comes with and makes it a 6 foot cord just to plug into an outlet somewhere else. That's crazy.
The funny thing is that I'm sure once you go to take that back because of the void of warranty
Yeah.
on the TV, we had this conversation with our plumber
With a hot water heater?
with a hot water heater yesterday. I don't know if you heard that one, but the tankless water heaters come with their own pigtail. So that pigtail is not rated for outside usage. It's not sunlight protective. This came from the electrical inspector yesterday, and I told Juan, I said, well, okay, so go ahead and cut the end off of it. Okay, Brian, does that sound okay? No, because there goes the warranty on the cord, right? I mean, guy's going to say, you took the tankless off, where's the cord at? And we see so many times a guy will cut the end off of it, stick it through the
Yeah.
concrete hole, maybe fill it up, maybe not fill it up, and then plug it into an outlet on the backside with something that he's rigged up. And it's common to see it with the TVs because everybody nowadays is hanging TVs up high.
Yeah.
And not to say it, but we now start to see not only the TVs are taken advantage of, the cable boxes with the HDMIs a lot of times are strapped to the back of the TVs, which they cut that cord off. And, by the time you got done, you've got no warranty on anything other than maybe an open splice inside of the wall, right?
I mean, it's just a scary scenario all the way around. You go out and you spend $800 or more on this nice flat screen TV. You hire someone who more than likely isn't licensed to do the work, and either one, you're taking the risk of them damaging your equipment you just purchased. Two, damaging your walls, damaging the wires in the walls. I mean, it's just a bad scenario all the way around. And when I was going through the comments and I was reading that, I was just thinking that's just crazy. It's crazy.
Well, not to say it, but an inspector sees a wall spliced open in that box, it's over.
Yeah.
So you don't want to put yourself in that position.
My past experience has also been like when you guys come out to our houses and properties and do stuff, you show up, you usually have the material, you got the tools, you've got the guys with the knowledge, and it's usually faster and cheaper than trying to go to a third
Sometimes
party.
some people think it's easier for somebody to say out. I called somebody from Best Buy, right? Yeah. They sent him out. They don't know if he's insured, licensed. They don't even know. The guy's coming out in his car with the TVs already delivered. Pre-delivered. Guy comes out with a 3 foot ladder. He's 7'2". He's already there, right?
Yeah.
So, it's understandable why people get in positions with some of the stuff. And it's understandable why people Gerald, we talked about spray foam and not spray foam, I'm sorry, but the way cast iron sealant. That is, to me, it sounded, years ago like it was, the best thing to happen. But now, listening to it, you can't figure out. You're going to be in problems within years of this stuff. Gonna collapse.
Oh, yeah.
And I see it in condos. I clearly know several condos that did the same thing. Replaced it with this stuff, and I thought now, that's crazy. You're going to end up, you're talking thousands of dollars now. So, if you're out there, Juan from American Electrical, you give a call over to American Electrical. Juan, what's that phone number?
239-353-4389.
The kind of service
That built America.
Don't fret.
Call Privette.
Well, listen, ladies and gentlemen, it comes to the end of the show. We want you guys to be safe out there. The COVID is still out there. Stay safe. Stay real safe, I guess, in the sense of not getting sick again, right, Juan?
Yeah, trust your president.
Trust your president. Stay with him. What's that president's name? Trump.
Trump 2020.
Well, thank you again. God bless America and Semper Fi.